The environment is big news. There's hardly a day goes by without a story hitting the headlines. And with conflicting claims by various interest groups, it's often hard to know what the real situation is. So how do we get to know the facts about the condition and well-being of the country? Well, one of the best ways is by State of the Environment reporting, and the 1996 report is the most detailed ever done in Australia.
The State of the Environment report is a comprehensive look at the entire Australian environment, so it considers our atmosphere, our land, our inland waters, our rivers, estuaries and seas, our plant and animal species, our human settlements, where we live and how we live, and the way we look after our natural and cultural heritage. The report spells out where the current problems are, what things we're doing well, what things we're doing badly, what are the most urgent areas that need attention.
In terms of Indigenous health, what are the key areas in the report?
Well, Indigenous people have not shared the health improvements that most Australians have enjoyed this century, and their average life expectancy is still 15 or 20 years less than that of most Australians. Some of the causes are environmental. For example, more than 2,000 Indigenous people don't have reasonable drinking water. Many don't have adequate waste systems. And these environmental problems cause health problems in the Aboriginal and Islander community. But we also draw attention to the fact that all Australians can learn from the traditions of Indigenous people of living sustainably, living in harmony with natural systems. Much European practice in agriculture in our towns is not sustainable because it's not compatible with natural systems.
The 1996 report was prepared by over 200 experts covering all aspects of the Australian environment. Among them was Bill Jonas, Principal of the Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies.
It's important that all culture and heritage get covered in the report, but the basis for all culture and heritage in Australia is Indigenous heritage. This is a heritage which we know goes back at least 40,000 years, and it's also an extremely unique heritage. And the places which we think should be protected as part of our environment are very important Indigenous places. One of the most important issues is to do with languages and the fact that language as an aspect of and an expression of our culture for Indigenous people has largely been lost. And once we lose the language, we lose knowing the way in which people have looked at the world and the way in which people have viewed the environment. And people say, well, everybody's got to learn to speak English anyway. But a lot of the concepts in Indigenous languages don't translate into English, or a lot of the concepts from English don't translate into Aboriginal languages. So it's terribly important that languages be maintained and we don't lose any more than we've already lost.
The report also covers the growing interest in Indigenous-based tourism and the adverse effect it can have on our heritage. But the increasing involvement of Indigenous people in land management, like at Uluru-Kata National Park, is seen as an important development. Here in the Torres Strait Islands, traditional foods like the turtle and dugong can still be an important part of the diet for some communities. The State of the Environment report has even considered the impact of environmental pressures on these creatures and the people who feed off them. The State of the Environment report does not pretend to provide all the answers. What it does is to make people aware of these important issues and hopefully help motivate all Australians to protect the environment as best they can. If you want to know more about the report, contact the Department of Environment, Sport and Territories at this address. The executive summary is available now, with the full report due out soon.
The report is basically just a report on the state of things as they exist now. So we haven't glossed over anything. We've talked about the good things, we've talked about the areas where there are problems, and our terms of reference don't take us any further than that. We'll now present the report to government, and of course a lot of the decisions which need to be made would be decisions to be made by politicians. But what we hope will come out of it in the first instance is that it will be very widely read, very widely distributed and very widely considered.
I hope the report will do two things. I hope in the short term it will sound a warning signal that many aspects of our past behaviour are not sustainable and that we need to pay urgent attention to these problems. For the long term, I hope it changes attitudes. It's meant to be the first of a series of reports at 4-year intervals, and we are also committed to establishing environmental indicators so that we can monitor progress. Unless we build environmental awareness into all our decision making, we really have very serious problems in the future.